How to make sure we're good. I think we're good. There's a video, bro. There, we're good.
Hey,
we're good.
We're good.
Yeah. Week 1 of the NBA Power Rankings. We're only 4 days in. I think some teams have only played like one game. That's chill. We're here. We're going to rank them anyway. That's no problem. From 30 to 1. And everybody's going to love it because they always do.
Yes.
Everybody loves it every time. So let's just get right into it. Let's not waste any time. With number 30 is the Portland Trail Blazers coming in last, starting off 0-2, and they are now missing Anthony Simons for 4 to 6 weeks. That is a kind of spell of death for the Trailblazers season, I might say. They have played 2 games already, lost to the Clippers last night, and they lost to the Magic. No, the Magic was the second game. They played the Magic second.
Yeah,
they played Clippers
night.
first.
Yeah, I watched it.
That was the Russ scoop game. Everybody loved that. Malcolm Brogdon leading the Blazers in scoring right now. 19 points a game. 13.5 rebounds for Ayton is actually kind of nasty. But Brogdon leading in assists. Robert Williams with steals. They're not getting a lot of steals or blocks. Those are pretty low. But the one nice surprise player I'll talk about for them is Jabari Walker. 7.5 points per game. 2.5 rebounds per game. In only 8 minutes, so limited production. He's putting up them numbers, But the Portland Trailblazers kind of feel like a step below the next worst team. Is how I would argue that. But we can move on to number 29, which to me is the Washington Wizards. I just don't. I don't think the Wizards are all that good. They've only played one game. They played the Pacers. They got blown out by about 23 is what they lose by. Not a great Jordan Poole game. Only shot like 39% from the field, I believe. And Kyle Kuzma leads the Wizards in scoring. That's what you love to see right there. It's still Kuz's team. 25 points per game in their one game. Denny Avdia leading them in rebounds. Jordan Poole's favorite teammate. 6 assists for DeLon Wright, 3 steals for DeLon Wright, and 3 blocks for Bilal Coulibaly. So the Wizards, they're going to get steals, they're going to get blocks. But they're not going to do
going to
a
give up
ton
150 points a game.
They're still going to give up a lot of points a game. They'll get, the flash defensive plays, but overall defense, not necessarily their specialty. But if we're talking about a surprise guy, Danilo Gallinari, back from injury, he's a bucket. 16 points, 3 rebounds in only 17 minutes. He had a quarter with 10 points. He was hooping for them. But the Wizards, it's going to be a long season for the Wizards, I believe. But Jordan Poole and Kuzma are still going to be fun. So we'll.
But they're going to beat the Grizzlies tonight.
Oh, are they?
Absolutely.
Wizards over Grizzlies.
Yes.
We'll move over to 28, and I have the Houston Rockets, who have kind of struggled. People thought the Rockets were going to be better. This is the Rockets' season. They're going to take a step up. They look just as bad as they did last year. 0-2. They get blown out by 30 in this season opener by the Magic, and they lose in overtime to Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs last night. 19.5 points per game for Şengün. He's been pretty good. 11 rebounds. Fred VanVleet passing a little more. 8.5 assists. 2 steals for Jalen Green. They're not really getting blocks. And my surprise guy for them, Jeff Green, Uncle Jeff. He's still out here playing.
He's putting in minutes.
I saw him in the preseason. I didn't think he'd really play, but he is. Cam Whitmore has 0 points in 10 minutes for the season so far. Not as nice as some people might thought, but we're looking at positive surprises and Jeff Green making an impact. The Rockets have not been very good, but who knows? Maybe they'll turn it around.
Where's Dylan the villain?
Dylan the villain already got embarrassed after 2 games. Said Wemby is just tall. He hits a turnaround in his face in overtime and points at him. It's not great for Dylan Brooks right now, but when is it really? So we'll move to 27, and I have the Atlanta Hawks. Who this is low for the Hawks, but the Hawks have been garbage through 2 games. The Hawks have just very clearly underperformed. Lose by 6 to the Hornets in the opener. Whatever. The Hornets aren't very good. Oh, well. So that's not a great one. They lose by 6 to the Knicks. That's a little more excusable. Trae Young leading them in scoring at 20.5 per game, but he is shooting only 23% from the field and 21% from 3. People talked about the bad Trae Young from last season. His shooting has gotten even worse somehow, so that's a bad sign for Trae and the Hawks. But DeAndre Hunter did have like 27 yesterday, so props to Hunter, I guess. But the Hawks overall have not looked great. It's a team I was kind of high on coming into the season, but right now I wouldn't say that you feel great about the Hawks if you're a Hawks fan.
But Jalen Johnson.
Jalen Johnson's been good. 16 points per game, 8 rebounds, and he's playing nearly 30 minutes a game. Quinn Snyder clearly likes Jalen Johnson. He's going to keep playing him. He had a poster, too, I remember. Nasty poster in the last game. 2.5 steals for Sadiq Bey. Sadiq Bey, new defensive presence. The Hawks, by the end of the season, I don't think they'll be this low, but right now, not very good for Atlanta. You see that picture going around? It was like that AI image of Trey, like, sitting in his own crap.
No,
it was pretty funny. It was a hilarious picture. I almost made it the picture for this, but I thought it was too out of pocket. We'll move to the Hornets for 26. They have picked up a win. They beat the Hawks. It's a little low for the Hornets. We can say that. That's fine. But the Hornets, it doesn't really move me yet, I think we'll get to a point maybe where the Hornets can move up the rankings. But as of week 1, I'm not sure if I really want to do that yet.
Well, Brandon Miller's been balling.
Brandon Miller has been balling. They beat the Hawks, who are spiraling out of control, so, who knows
it's been 2 games.
But the Pistons, they lose to yesterday in what almost turned into a brawl. There was a point they give out 4 techs at once for Miller, Washington, Duran, and Stewart. PJ Washington later gets booted out of the game. It's almost a brawl in that game. Terry Rozier leading them in scoring, 22 a game. LaMelo struggled with efficiency a little bit, but 9.5 assists for LaMelo. He's looked solid. And Brandon Miller, who a lot of people said, oh, why wouldn't the Blazers... why didn't the Hornets take Scoot Henderson, This is an awful pick. They're going to regret this for years to come. At least through 2 games, Brandon Miller looks better,
Yes.
So that must be.
It's basically, it proves the point.
That's the end-all, be-all, that Miller, it was the right pick at number 2. But he's been good. 15 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, and 46% from 3. Looking a lot more like the player we saw at Alabama than what we saw in the preseason and Summer League, where he just wasn't very good. At 25, I got the Detroit Pistons.
Oh, that's disrespect.
It's not disrespect.
Disrespect.
They're going to move up, I think. But right now, this is, I think, what we're going to do. So we're going to put the Pistons at 25.
They almost beat
kind
the Heat,
of a placeholder. They did almost beat the Heat. I'm not really moved by how the Heat have been looking either. But, but almost beat the Heat behind a Cade 30-piece. Nice opener for Cade. Yeah. He's leading them in scoring, averaging 21 points per game. They were led in scoring yesterday by Alec Burks, who had 24. Big Alec Burks game. But Jalen Duran is the big thing for this team right now. 15.5 points per game, 15.5 rebounds per game, and 3 blocks per game. He's been a legitimate menace. People kind of compared him to Dwight Howard when he was coming in, and he's looking like he could actually reach that level of upside. He's been dominant through 2 games as, kind of an undersized center. He's like 6'10", but he's super athletic, and, he's looked really good for them. Killian Hayes, 2 steals per game. Yes. Bounce back Killian Hayes year? Who knows?
He can learn how to play basketball again.
I'm kind of disappointed that Wiseman isn't playing, no Wiseman minutes. It's all Bagley, It's Duran, it's Stewart, and it's Bagley, No no Wiseman, but that's okay. I think the Pistons could move up. I just don't think they have a super talented roster. But when Bojan Bogdanovic gets back, who knows? Maybe they look much better. You never know. But at 24, I have the Grizzlies, who've also been bad. The Grizzlies lose their center. Steven Adams out for the year. And to me, it's just not the same. They have no Ja Morant. They have no Adams. They have no Brandon Clark. There's a lot of guys missing with injuries. And the offense is just kind of ugly. Jaren Jackson Jr. has been pretty good defensively, as you'd expect from the Defensive Player of the Year, but offensively they just haven't been that good. They lost to the Pelicans in their opener. Zion played well in that game, and they lost to the Grizzlies. They lost to the Nuggets in game 2. Little typo there. They didn't lose to themselves. They lost to
the Nuggets. They are basically losing to themselves at this point.
They did lose to the Nuggets. Some might say, oh, they only lost to the reigning champs by 4. I think that would be an overreaction to say that makes them a good team. The Grizzlies, just haven't really been awesome to this point. 23 points per game for Desmond Bane, 10 rebounds for Xavier Tillman. Xavier Tillman's been pretty good for the season, averaging 15 and 10 with 3 assists, a block and a half. Tillman is fine. He should probably be a backup big man. He's fine as like a serviceable starting center for a while, but they need another big man. I think that's their biggest glaring weakness. This team is good defensively, but offensively it's kind of difficult to watch. So we'll see if they pick it up, but they probably won't stay down this low. I think that's very unlikely. But I think at this point in the season, earlier on, they just haven't looked all that good. At 23, I have the Nets. I love watching the Nets. I'm a huge Nets fan, watch them play. But I couldn't quite move them higher. They have lost both their games, but both of them are close. They were competitive games, which almost made me say, let's shoot them up the rankings a little bit.
And then the Pistons couldn't get your respect?
No. The Nets have way more respect because they just have so many guys hooping right now. They lost to the Cavs by 1. They lose to the Mavs by 5. I think a lot of this isn't on the players. It's on the coach. Jacques Vaughn has horrible substitution patterns. In the first game, I think he sat Cam Thomas like 9 minutes in the fourth quarter. Last game, there's like 4 minutes left in the fourth. Cam Thomas isn't on the floor. I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing with Cam? He's your best offensive player. I know Jacques Vaughn doesn't like him, but at least he's trying on defense now. I've seen him give a little effort, which is nice. He'll pass the ball occasionally, but he's going to give you buckets. 33 points per game for Cam Thomas. And Ben Simmons quietly been pretty solid for them as well. 10 rebounds per game, 8.5 assists. Not quite scoring at what he used to be, but I think in terms of like the other like positive aspects of his game, I think Ben Simmons has looked a lot better than what we saw last year anyway. So that's a positive sign for them. And I think the biggest surprise is just how good Cam has been. People knew he could score, but this level is kind of crazy. 33 points per game, 5 rebounds, 1 steal, and shooting 63% from the field. Can he keep up that level of efficiency? Probably not. It's hard to do that.
No, I think he will.
Nobody can do that. But
Cam Thomas can.
Yeah, he can do anything.
Yeah, basically.
Don't want to hold him back. But I like the different things that he does different from last year. It's not just isolation scoring. He's getting out in the fast break. He's scoring layups. He's running past people. So I like a little kind of advancement in his game than just let me ISO and steal this possession. But, Cam, I think...
That was a lot of love for Brooklyn at 23.
23. We're talking about Brooklyn a lot. I'm a big Brooklyn guy, 22, I have the Bulls, who had a players-only meeting after their first loss of the season. They got beat so bad by the Thunder. They almost blew up the team right there. Everything was exploding inside of the locker room. It was not good. But then they get lucky. They get a win against the Raptors in overtime. Alex Caruso, game-winning 3. Steal that game for Alex Caruso. Quietly, people aren't going to notice this maybe. Zach LaVine has been arguably worse than Trae Young, averaging 12 points per game, shooting like 23% from the field, but like 12% from 3. Zach LaVine has been awful. But DeMar DeRozan, still all-star form as he gets into his later years here. 27 points per game, basically. Vucevic, 10.5 rebounds. And Kobe White, 6 assists per game. I think the biggest surprise for them is that Kobe White has kind of stepped up as like their lead point guard, 16 points per game, second leading scorer, because Zach LaVine is not doing it. Neither's Vooch, actually.
Yeah.
But 6 assists, 5 rebounds in 36 minutes a game.
Where's Patrick Williams?
Pat Williams has been fine. He hasn't been their best player. So Kobe White, to me, is their biggest surprise. And then we move into 21. I have the Minnesota Timberwolves, who did not look good in their opener against the Raptors. Solid game for Anthony Edwards, finished with 26 points and 14 rebounds, but was kind of clamped in the fourth quarter by OG Anunoby. There was just nothing Edwards was doing. But Kyle Anderson, 5 assists, 2 steals. He's their biggest surprise. 7 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. Kyle Anderson is filling up the box score for the Minnesota Timberwolves. But, they need better production from all of their guys. Even Anthony Edwards, I think, can be a more productive player than what we've seen. But I think they need to take a step forward just as they move on, because putting up 94 points is not going to get it done. And losing to the Raptors, who I don't think are a great team, is not a great look for Minnesota. But then at number 20, I have the Raptors. You might say to yourself, didn't the Bulls beat them? Why are the Bulls behind?
Yeah.
There was this stretch in the second quarter where the Raptors just could not do anything offensively. It was the worst offensive stretch I've seen in a long time. There were like 4 minutes left in the first half, and the Raptors had 23 points. 23. It was disgusting offense. Their half-court offense is atrocious. But they get out on the fast break and score, and they're very good defensively. That's the thing with them. They're a great defensive team, so I'm gonna put trust in their defense and say that it can at least prop them up a little bit. And I think they're a better team than the Bulls if you look at the long term. Sure. Scotty Barnes, 19.5 points per game, leading the team in scoring, 9 rebounds. But Dennis Schroeder, 8.5 assists, 16 points. Has not been quite the production that Van Fleet was in terms of scoring last year, but is about as close as you could ask for. I think he's been pretty good to start the season for them. I like Dennis Schroeder for them. But we'll move into number 19, where I have the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs are climbing up the rankings. They're going up. A lot of people to start the year probably would have had the Spurs at like 28 or 27 or something like that. But I've liked what I've seen from them. I think they're pretty well-rounded. They got a bunch of different guys that can do things. They lose to the Mavs in the opener, but it was a competitive game. It's not like they got blown out of the water or anything. They were in that game until the end, until the last 2 minutes where Wemby's teammates did not pass him the ball. I'm not sure what happened down the stretch there, but he was not touching it.
They act like it's the worst possible scenario in the world when they have to pass to him. It's like, I have to pass to Victor.
It's awful. What am I going to do? So they struggled with passing him, but it was better in the second game, and he stayed out of foul trouble, so he was able to make a bigger impact for them. But they beat the Rockets in overtime, so that's why, you can take them ahead of the Rockets right now. So I think the Spurs are an all right team. 24 points per game for Devin Vassell. I think he'll probably lead them in scoring this year. I don't think it'll be Wemby. I think it'll probably be Vassell. Good offensive player, kind of 3-and-D type. 8.5 rebounds for Victor. 7 assists for Trey Jones off the bench. Still making an impact despite the point Sohan movement that they're doing in the starting lineup.
Interesting.
But I like their guys. Vassell's good. Keldon Johnson is good. And Sohan at the point, I actually kind of like it. I think it's kind of fun to watch. It's going to be an experiment for sure. But I like it for the Spurs. And Victor Wembanyama, 2 blocks per game. But Zach Collins, the center with 2.5 steals a night, he's out there. He's putting in work. But Jetty Osman has been a very good impact player for them. Former Cav. 13 points per game and shooting 50% from 3. He just comes in and hits threes. They're locked in on Wemby and Vassell. We're going to throw it to Jetty Osman, and he's going to hit shots for us.
Represent Turkey.
A big Turkish showdown. Jetty Osman versus Alperen Şengün. But the Spurs, I think, are a top 19 team. That's where I have them.
Interesting.
Yo, what's up? Dejan Markius in the chat says, yo, what's good, my boy? We move up here. I have the Jazz at 18. That's where I'm going to slide them in at. I wasn't exactly sure what to do with the Jazz because it wasn't super promising in their opener. They get kind of handled by the Kings, lose by 16. Harrison Barnes puts up like 30 in the first half. What was going on in that game? But then they beat the Clippers on a shot where Kawhi misses, comes off, goes to Russell Westbrook, takes a step-back turnaround, and Kawhi Leonard falls to his knees. He cannot believe it. What is going on? What are we doing?
I blame Kawhi for missing the shot.
He hates the rush shot.
Take it to the basket.
I'm not even sure that the Jazz should have won that game, but I'm a Jazz supporter. We like the Jazz out here. Yeah. Top 6 in the West. That's what we said in our predictions video.
We did say that.
So we'll keep them high in the power rankings for now. We'll keep them up at 18. But Lauri Markkanen, 27 points per game. Really solid game yesterday after kind of like a mid-opener for him. So solid. 11.5 rebounds for John Collins. He's getting back at it. He's out
PEDs.
Here. Maybe he's back on him. Who knows? Jordan Clarkson, the point guard for this team, is 6 assists per game. Hit the game winner yesterday. And then the biggest surprise to me for them is Keontae George. There's no one to pick from. There's no one to pick from.
Chris Dunn.
Chris Dunn has been fine. He's not the biggest surprise.
Keontae George to clap at Russell Westbrook and act like he owns him. Russell Westbrook is Keontae George's
Keontae George is like that DB where the receiver drops the ball and he makes the signal.
That's exactly what he is.
But no, puts up 8 points per game, 2 assists, 60% from the field, 50% from 3. People thought he'd be solid, but I think he's making a solid impact in kind of smaller minutes.
You just love Keontae George.
I do like Keontae George. I'm a little biased towards Keontae George.
A lot of bias
he's a bucket getter. But we'll move past the Jazz. I have the Pelicans at 17, who won their opener against the Grizzlies. Some people might be higher on them. It's hard to trust the health with Zion, who's never there. But Trey Murphy isn't playing. But solid CJ McCollum game. He was great.
Stop.
24 points per game in the opener. He just had one game, but he had 24 points.
Oh, wow. He's all-star.
6 assists, 2 steals. CJ is lighting it up out here. And they win. They beat the Grizzlies, because they have Tillman in the post. What are they going to do? Zion's going to dunk on him. He's going to catch lobs on him. That's what's going to go down.
You said Tillman was doing good, though.
Tillman was doing all right, but it doesn't matter because the Pelicans were better.
Are they beating the Knicks tonight?
I don't know.
You never answered.
I would lean towards no.
No. Wrong. Viewers at home, I think they're beating the Knicks.
Viewers at home,
Money
Ethan says
line.
they're beating the Knicks tonight.
That is not gambling advice legally.
No, I deny. No one's making any advice. These
Yeah.
are just random thoughts. Jonas Valanciunas, 12 rebounds in the opener. But Matt Ryan, surprise for them, signed
Lakers
right
legend.
off the street, cut 2 days earlier by the Timberwolves. Comes out there for the Pelicans. He's just sniping. He's hitting threes. 9 points and 3 threes made. Shot 50% from 3. Made an immediate impact. They need shooting. So if they can get Matt Ryan to hit a couple threes for them a game, I think that's going to be huge. They're a team that could move up the rankings here pretty easily. They were the number 1 seed last year before Zion went down. But, we'll see what happens. After they beat the Knicks, maybe they'll fly up for next week. At 16, I have the Magic.
Whoa, disrespect!
I wanted to put them
so
higher.
Disrespectful.
I wanted to put the Magic higher. It's
Top
so
10.
early. No, it's so early.
No.
I couldn't do it to the Magic.
Look at Franz.
I love the Magic. I'm a big Magic guy. But higher than 16 felt really, really reactionary.
Let me take this over here. Orlando Magic. Franz Wagner, one of the greatest players we've seen out of Germany all time. He's just lighting it up. Did you see him against the Trailblazers? He was on fire. He could just do everything. Against the Rockets, he had his will every
He hit a
single
step
time.
back against the Rockets. Is nasty.
And Cole Anthony, 20 points in his season opener. I've been saying it all summer. I've been saying it every podcast. Cole Anthony, deserving of Sixth Man of the Year. And then he did his thing last night against the Trailblazers as well. Looking at a couple other numbers, I mean, Paolo Banchero's been underwhelming, but we won't talk about him because he'll figure it out later on. It doesn't matter. Jalen Suggs, I'm not a big Jalen Suggs guy, but he's been doing good on defense. That's why he's running the rotations in the fourth quarter. Personally, Markelle Fultz should be out there in the fourth quarter, but that's why I'm sitting in a Division III dorm room playing baseball rather than coaching in the NBA.
Yeah.
But who knows? But Mo Wagner as well, lighting up the stat sheets, doing his thing on defense with blocks. And most surprising player, I've said it before, I've said it every single time, Cole Anthony, 19 points per game, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists off the bench. I predicted him Sixth Man of the Year. I should have placed down my mortgage on a Cole Anthony Sixth Man of the Year future because it's going to happen.
He's making the push. He's making the Sixth Man of the Year push. Cole Anthony, bucket getter.
Bucket
All
getter.
he does is come in and get buckets every night. That's all he does. He's their second leading scorer right now. Cole Anthony is doing it.
Our
for
current
the
viewers
Magic.
just went down a ton after I started speaking on
They,
the Magic.
they don't love that Magic
They don't love the
rant.
Magic take there. That was
That's
awful.
all right. The Magic are going to move up. It's fine. The Magic will continue to get better. People don't like the Magic. It's boring in Orlando,
No, that's not true. Big Magic fan.
It's actually pretty fun in Orlando. But we'll move past them. One of the best league pass teams in the league, by the way.
Oh,
but,
I love them. I
But
watched them
we'll
at
move
home.
past. I have the Pacers at 15. 1-0, blew out the Wizards in their opener.
That doesn't say
24
much.
It doesn't say a ton. 24 points per game for Bruce Brown. Wow. Great signing. Worth the money. 20 mil a year. Easy for Bruce Brown.
It's guaranteed after one game of beating the Wizards. It was totally worth it. It was great.
Yeah, that's what they should have done. It makes a lot of sense that they gave him that level of contract. 8 rebounds per game for Miles Turner, back to what he does. 11 assists for Tyrese Halliburton. TJ McConnell still getting steals out here, always does. And 3 blocks for Miles Turner. But the biggest surprise, Jalen Smith, who was washed last year. They would not play him at the 4. They were playing Aaron Nesmith at the 4 last year, who's a shooting guard. But they said, Jalen Smith is back now. 13 points in the opener, 8 rebounds in only 13 minutes. Solid opener for Jalen Smith. But we'll see if he gets better, as the season goes along, if he can sustain it. Because I'm not sure that he can. But at number 14, I have the Miami Heat, who haven't been great, in my opinion. They beat the Pistons by 1 point in the opener, survived the Cade 30 piece. That's all they need to do, A win is a win.
Win is a win.
That's what they say. But lost to the Celtics by 8. Close game. The Celtics really struggle with Miami for whatever reason it is. But they've been fine. Bam Adebayo, 24.5 points per game. Kevin Love, the old man, 9.5 rebounds and 11 points per game. Kevin Love is kind of hooping a little bit. Tyler Hero, 4.5 assists, 2 steals, and he's putting up 22 points per game. Tyler Hero's out for revenge this season. People were kind of hating on his name, but Tyler Hero says, "I'm back now. It's Tyler Hero's time."
Right.
He's got the new haircut. He's letting it dangle in his eyes a little bit. But Tyler Hero is here for buckets, and he says, "I'm going to lead this Heat team in scoring." And Bam Bam says, I'm going to get my Defensive Player of the Year. This is my time. But the biggest surprise, Drew Smith, who the Heat fans hate. Heat fans hate Drew Smith because he got the last roster spot. They said, we want Jamal Cain, we want RJ Hampton. The Heat said, it's Drew Smith time.
Yes.
He's the backup point guard, 5.5 points per game, 2 assists per game in 16 minutes. He's getting some burn out there. Only half a turnover a game. It's assist-to-turnover ratio.
Not bad.
It's phenomenal. Heat fans, maybe you should change your mind on Drew Smith. He might be that guy. He's this year's Gabe Vincent, putting up 20 in the Eastern Conference Finals.
We'll see about that.
You never know. They always do it with these undrafted guys. Then we move into 13. I got the Clippers at 13. Part of me wanted to put them lower, but I said they got too much star power. I can't do it. I was very tempted, but they beat the Trailblazers in the opener by 12. Simons was playing. The team was a little better then, and they lose to the Jazz by 2. A game that they should have won, did not. Being led in scoring by Paul George, 31.5 points per game. Paul George wants his MVP. I remember in OKC, he was top 3 in MVP voting, and he says, I want to get back to that. And Russell Westbrook, the Brody, is back. 7 rebounds per game, 8.5 assists. He's throwing down dunks. He's airballing game winners. He's doing all this stuff out here that you want Russell Westbrook to do, except Kawhi hates him or something. I don't know. The relationship seems kind of strained. He was not a fan of the shot that he took.
What other shot do you take with 1 second left?
He kicks it to Nick Batum. That was the
wouldn't
open
have got
shot.
it. No, it wouldn't have got
they
it.
had time.
Nope, they had no time.
I slowed it down. I replayed it.
Nope.
Catches it, looking at Nick Batum, 2.8 seconds on the clock. You can kick that.
Okay, let's think about the rap lyric. Fourth quarter, why the F Batum in? One of the greatest freestyle rap lyrics ever.
Good, yeah.
Why is he in the game in the fourth quarter? Why? We'll never know.
He needs to be.
No, he does not.
But the biggest surprise for them, Bones Highland wants to be a 6th man of the year too. He's throwing his name in the hat. 14.5 points per game, shooting 52% from the field and 39% from 3. Busy Bones, been pretty good for them off the bench. But the Clippers, I have them at 13. They could end up higher. They should be a playoff team. I feel pretty confident that they will be. But to me, they've been just okay. They haven't been great. They've been okay. At number 12, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. I would have them higher. I thought they looked fine in their opener. It's not like they were played poorly or anything. But no James Harden. There's still a lot of stuff up in the air when you look at the Sixers. So they lose the opener to the Bucks by 1. It was really by 4, if you don't count that DeAnthony Melton bank-in 3 at the buzzer. But they're led in scoring by Tyrese Maxey, who had 31. Kelly Oubre put up 27, and I believe Embiid had 24. It was kind of a mid-Embiid game. People weren't super happy with how he played. But 7 rebounds for PJ Tucker, 8 assists for Tyrese Maxey, and then Jaden Springer, my boy, off the bench, puts up 2 blocks. He's athletic. He blocked Dame with 2 hands, I remember. It was kind of a spike. He was there. He was ready to be there. But the biggest surprise for them is Kelly Oubre, who puts up 27 points, 4 rebounds, and shoots 82% from the field and 83% from 3.
While he's beefing with the fans courtside.
He's blowing kisses every play. Every time he scores, he's blowing a kiss. He's ready. He's out there. He says, this is my revenge season. They gave me the minimum contract. No one wanted me. I averaged 20 points a game last year, and I had to sign the minimum. So maybe a little disrespect on Kelly Oubre's name.
That's what it seems.
But, he's out here hooping, and the Sixers, I think, are going to be fine. But we'll see what happens with Harden. I think that's the biggest cloud that's hanging over them. At number 11, I've got the Kings, which is, probably right where they fit in. Maybe it's a little too low. But they beat the Jazz handily in the opener, and they lose to the Warriors, who just continually have their number in their second game. Steph Curry puts up 41 on them. He continues to destroy them every time they play. In his last 2 games, he has over 90 points against them. Yeah. And in the preseason, he had a game winner against them. He was out there in the fourth quarter. He says, I'm not losing to the Kings. I don't care if it's the preseason. I'm going to get my points. I'm going to hit my clutch shots against the Kings because I hate them. And then he signed Fox to his shoe brand, which almost felt like cuckoldry or something. He's like, I'm going to disrespect you by making you under me in my own shoe brand. He signs De'Aaron Fox, but Fox has been good, had 39 points last night, 28.5 for the season. Domantas Sabonis had 18 rebounds last night, sorry. That's the biggest problem for the Warriors. It's going to be their problem all season. They're too small. They can't really rebound. Kevon Looney can rebound. Pretty much no one else can. Nurkic put up 14 rebounds on him in the opener, and Sabonis grabbed Cavs 18 boards against him yesterday, so not a great look there. Malik Monk, 6.5 assists per game and 1.5 blocks. But the biggest surprise is early season Harrison Barnes strikes again. 21.5 points per game, and through 2 games is shooting 71% from the field. He's a sniper, Harrison Barnes. We thought it was going to be a breakout Keegan season. Harrison Barnes says, not so fast. I'm the best forward on this team. But Harrison Barnes is always good early in the year, so who knows if that'll last. But the Kings have been good. They're going to continue to be good. And my boy Sasha Vezenkov off the bench, pretty stroke. It's beautiful to watch when he shoots that thing. Then we move into number 10. I got the Knicks at 10. I think you think this is too high.
This is way too high. What do you mean?
But the Knicks,
this is just biased.
No, it's not biased.
This is biased.
I'm not a Knicks guy. This is not biased.
This is unbelievable here.
No,
what in the world?
They almost beat the Celtics, who are the best team in the East. I don't even.
What? Yeah, but that doesn't matter. They barely
and then they
beat
beat
the
Hawks.
They barely beat them.
Hold
on. The quote, spiraling Hawks.
You said that didn't matter. It was 2 games in the year. You can't spiral 2 games in. You're moving the goalposts here. But RJ Barrett has looked good. I think he's been their best player through 2 games. 25 points per game. Julius Randle has been awful offensively, but he's finding other ways to make an impact. 11.5 rebounds, 8 assists. Point Julius Randle out here. 8 assists per game. Mitchell Robinson, 3 blocks, 2 steals. He's the stocks king for this team. But RJ Barrett has been their biggest surprise to me as he takes another leap forward to be a star-level player that they said he could be. We'll see if he ever reaches that. A lot of people would lean towards no. But 25 points per game, 4 assists, 50% from 3, and continues to be a good defender. The Knicks are a good team. I don't care what you say. The Knicks are a good team. They went to the second round last year. They got better, At number 9, I got the Cavs. I have the Cavs at 9. I've liked what I've seen from them. They're missing a couple guys. Jared Allen has missed both games. Darius Garland has missed the second game. But they beat the Nets in the opener off of a Donovan Mitchell game winner. Pushes off Cam Johnson. He says, get off me. Stares at him on the ground. Hits the 3. Talks a little. But they lose to the Thunder in the second game, and the Thunder have been great. So I'm not going to hold that against them too much because Donovan Mitchell had 43 in that game. So what are you going to say? But Donovan Mitchell, 35 points per game, 10.5 rebounds for Mobley. The stat sheet for the Cavs right now is run by Mitchell and Mobley. It's kind of a 2-man show. But the biggest surprise has been Max Strus, 17.5 points per game, 8.5 rebounds. No Jared Allen. It's Strus's time to get boards. 39% from 3 is kind of what you'd expect. It's a little higher than what we've seen in the past. But I like the scoring. I like the rebounding. I think he had 27 in the opener. Is a little worse of a second game. But it's been a positive impact through 2 games for them. And the Cavs just look like a solid team again. At number 8, I have the Mavs, who are 2-0. A lot of people told me the Mavs should be top 5. I'm not going to buy into their 2-0 that much. Because the Mavs, I can't forget the spiraling out of control. The collapse they had last season to miss the play-in was embarrassing to watch. But they are 2-0 this year. So that's a big win for them. They beat the Spurs in the opener, and they beat the Nets in the second game. I'm not sure either of those teams are great, would be my biggest argument against the 2-0 mark here. But Luka Doncic has been unconscious. He's been ridiculous. 41 points per game, 11.5 rebounds. 8.5 assists. He's just leading the box score. He's doing everything for the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic show in Dallas. Yeah. It's the Luka special, as Devin Booker would say. But Josh Green, 2 steals and a block for Derek Lively. The biggest surprise to me, I love Derek Lively for them. He's been very good. 12.5 points per game, 6 rebounds, 1 block, and shooting a ridiculous 92% from the field. I don't know how you do that. I guess it's because it's all dunks. But, a lot of them are kind of difficult dunks, to be fair. They're tough lobs. It's put back dunks. He's doing a lot for this Mavs team. Yeah. And it feels like they finally have a good center. Now they just need to start him and keep him starting consistently. Because he only played like 15 minutes last game. It was not enough. He needs to be out there. He's their best center, I think, pretty easily. So we'll see more of him throughout the season. But I like early on what we're seeing from the Mavs is pretty solid. Kyrie has been okay, not great, but Luka Doncic has been good enough to make up for it. So it doesn't really matter. At number 7, I have the Warriors, who I like the Chris Paul Steph Curry duo. I think it's pretty solid. They lose to the Suns in the opener because Devin Booker looked like he was on a different planet in Game 1, was unstoppable. But they continue the domination of the Kings in Game 2. 34 points per game from Steph Curry. Kevon Looney, 11.5 rebounds. All he does is board. Board men get paid, as Kawhi Leonard says. But 10.5 assists for Chris Paul, still putting up crazy assist numbers. Moses Moody getting 3 steals per. And the biggest surprise is old man Chris Paul is still great. You know, a lot of people said after last year he's fallen off. You know, he was not great for the Suns last year, for being honest. But he gets on this Warriors team. He says, I'm going to make this team better. I got a bunch of people to pass to that are going to hit open shots. 12 points per game, 10.5 assists, 4 rebounds, and 2.5 steals. Old man getting in there, creating some havoc, you know?
Doing a job.
But I like what I've seen, and I think he's done a really good job at making the young guys look better. Moses Moody and Kuminga have both been pretty solid through 2 games for them, and I think they've looked solid. At number 6, I have the Lakers, you know, who I could have put lower, to be fair. They haven't looked amazing through 2 games, but they beat the Suns and they, you know, hung with the Nuggets kind of. So we'll take it. Anthony Davis leads them in scoring, 23.5. Is he the best player on this team? Who knows? He's Mr. Inconsistent. But 10 rebounds per game, 7 assists for LeBron. You know, he says he wants to be the point guard. That's what he tells the coach. Yeah. I'm not sure he has enough to be the point guard. Kind of gassing, you know, at this point in his career. But Gabe Vincent, 2 steals, 2.5 blocks for Anthony Davis. But the biggest surprise to me has been Christian Wood, who was playing down the stretch last game. Yeah. He was kind of shutting down KD a little. I loved it. It was a mixture of him and Cam Reddish locking up on KD. I'm like, I don't know what we're doing, but it's working, so let's keep doing it. 7 points per game, 7 rebounds, and has been a good defender, which has kind of been the biggest knock against him for his whole career. Only 18.5 minutes, but if he continues to play like this, I think that could get higher pretty quickly. At number 5, I have the Thunder. I'm raising them up here. I love the Thunder. They've been great. They beat the Bulls so bad they had to have a players-only meeting, as I said earlier. And then they beat the Cavs in their second game. The Cavs are missing a couple key guys, but still, I think it was a good win. They survived 43 from Donovan Mitchell. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, even better than last year, 32.5 points per game, 8.5 rebounds for Chet. Shai and Chet run the box score here. 3.5 blocks per game from Chet Holmgren, but a lot of that is deceiving because he had 0 in the opener and he had 7 yesterday. So, you know, we split the gap there, 3.5. Bad opener, gets crossed, put on the ground by Andre Drummond. Gets dunked on by Nikola Vucevic, but he's back in game 2. He had like 16, 13, and 7. It was a ridiculous Chet Holmgren game. But the biggest surprise is the offensive leap from Lou Dort, who's averaging 16.5, 6.5 rebounds, and shooting 56% from 3. I like the shooting from Lou Dort. I think that's the best thing you're going to get from him. Like, offensively, if he does that, I think it takes his team to a whole new level. Sure. Number 4, I have the Suns, who did lose to the Lakers, I know, but they only had Kevin Durant and then a bunch of guys. So I think I feel all right if Booker's there, who was ridiculous in his first game. If Booker's out there, if Beal is there, who we haven't seen yet at all, I think that they'll be very good. 32 points in the opener from Devin Booker. Nurkic is rebounding. You know, a lot of people hated that deal. They said DeAndre Ayton would be a better player for you. But Nurkic has been good for them. You know, he hit a big shot in the first game that helped them win it. And Devin Booker playing the point guard spot, 8 assists per game. And Drew Eubanks, who they caught a tampering fine for. Yeah. They lost their second round pick because of Drew Eubanks. But a block and a half per game. And the nicest surprise from them, Josh Okogie has been very good. Stepping up as the kind of 4th offensive option. 13.5 points per game, 6.5 rebounds. It is not Grayson Allen. I can tell you that right now. Yeah. You know, some of us thought maybe Grayson Allen's that offensive guy. He's not. He's just not that guy. It's not going to be him. It's going to be Josh Okogie. At number 3, I have the Bucks, who beat the Sixers in their opener, but they've only played 1 game, so I'm going to keep the Celtics ahead of them for now. I think it's fair enough. But they beat the Sixers. Damian Lillard, 39-point debut, ridiculous. 12 rebounds from Giannis. Great debut for Freak Time, as they like to be called. Freak Time. Freak Time. It was Dame time in the 4th quarter. He was phenomenal. He had like 14 points in the last 4 minutes or something. It was ridiculous. But the biggest surprise, Jay Crowder is back. Oh, no. Jay Crowder time. 9 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 steals. He might be crucial for this Bucks team. Who knows? But we move into number 2. I have the Celtics at 2. They beat the Knicks in the opener. They beat the Heat last night. Jason Tatum, 28 points per game, wants to be MVP. I think it'll be tough because of all the other guys he has on his team. It almost takes away from what he's doing. But Kristaps Porzingis has been awesome for them. 24 points per game, 8.5 rebounds, 2.5 blocks, and 47% from three. He's hitting threes. He's blocking shots. He's doing everything you could ask for from Kristaps Porzingis. Very good opener. First couple games from him. And at number 1, I still have the Nuggets. I don't know how you have any other team.
That's fair.
I think it's pretty clear they're the best team in the league. They beat the Lakers by 12 in the opener. They beat the Grizzlies by 4, which they should have won by more, but oh well. You see that pass from Jokic on the inbound to Gordon? It was like on a lob. They give him the ball on the inbound. He's at like the hash, the coach's mark, on his side of the court. You know, Aaron Gordon is down there. He's running. He throws it one-handed like this. It's a lob. He dunks it. It was ridiculous.
That's crazy. I'll believe
it. It was a beautiful pass from Jokic, as he always does. But leading them in pretty much everything. 25.5 points, 12.5 rebounds, 9 assists. Wants to be MVP again, I guess. Three-time. Should be 4-time in a row, probably, if he wins it this year. But, you know, maybe people love Embiid. You know, a lot of Embiid guys out there. Some might say there was a Kendrick Perkins push in the media last year to take it away from Nikola Jokic. But the biggest surprise to me, Reggie Jackson off the bench is good again. Last year he got there, he stopped playing. You know, he just wasn't good. They weren't really playing him. But 12 points per game, 3.5 assists, 2.5 rebounds. Crossed up LeBron James in the opener.
Not true.
That's not what happened. He may have stepped on his foot. But 4 steals from Kentavious Caldwell-Pope per game. He has 8 steals through 2 games. Great job from KCP. But that's the power rankings today. That's the top 30. I'm sure everyone agreed, as they always do.
Of course.
They love the rankings. Even you thought everyone was right.
Every single one was perfect.
You loved the Knicks at 10. Was your favorite one, I think.
Yeah, that was, you know, I loved the Magic at, was it like 15 or 14?
16.
16, even better. No, I couldn't even make the top 12.
I think some might argue that was too high.
That's disrespectful.
It's too early in the year, I think, to have the Magic any higher.
No, I'd say, like, other than the Lakers, the Magic.
When we come back with week 2, the Magic will be higher.
Good,
you know?
yes.
If they keep winning. If they lose all the games this week, they'll be lower.
No, so that's not going to happen.
That's how it works.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's how it works. This is a reactionary live stream.
It's not going to happen.
But that's going to be it for the power rankings. So thank you guys for watching. Enjoy your night of NBA hoops as they start off. They kick off right about now at 7:05.
Go Pelicans.
So we're done for the night. But thank you guys for watching. That's going to be it for us, and we're going to call it. So on the road to 1 million, as we always are.
1 million?
Yes.
Shout out Keegan Murray.
Yes. Peace. Friend of the pod. Good. We are done.